Port to this computer. All right, so today is Thursday, July 23rd. On the line, we have Jonathan Caras. We have Ernest. Ernest, what's
Hi.
your last name?
My it's pronounced Kisiedu.
I wasn't even going to try that.
No worries, no
We
worries.
have Gabriel Haines and we have Matt Quinn, and we are discussing today about how to create content that will appeal to Rust developers. Is that a good way to
Well,
describe?
what I would say is, what we're discussing today is how we can work together as a community to create some compelling content. Um, it's very much in line with the discussions that have been going on in Telegram, related to the video content that wants to be produced to showcase the vision of Nervos and what is already available to the community from my friends who I'm in a venture with called Chapter One. So my aim today is to present to you who Chapter One are, articulate to you their cause, and also to really kind of lay down how this benefits the community in a way that no kind of outsider, quote unquote, could really get. And the reason why I use the term outsider, I want to qualify that, is that the Chapter One is a blockchain focused um, content creation company. So they have a stake and they have an understanding of the space that you wouldn't get from a design shop who aren't necessarily um, who don't necessarily care about the blockchain space. They just care about creating the content. They have uh, benefits and they have um, an understanding of things that already kind of cut through the jargon and cut through the overhead of having to explain the cause of not just Nervos, but the what blockchain technology could be as a concept.
Okay,
So does
so
that make sense?
yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I guess what my first question is, what um, what do you think give me the high level vision and then help me understand from a operational perspective, what would be required in terms of community ownership to help make this happen. Now,
Okay.
to give some context here, I don't think that Gabriel's gotten a chance to speak. So before you jump into it, um, I want to I want to introduce Gabriel,
Yes.
who is new to the Nervos community, but comes with a lot of video production experience. And one of the things
Amazing.
that I was excited, when he decided to jump in, was for him to be able to use his operational expertise and his experience of really managing a multifaceted, multi-party video production. Watching that happen. So,
Amazing.
Gabe, the floor is yours.
Thanks. What a wonderful intro. You really hyped me up there. But basically, yeah, I started working just recently with Jonathan, and I wanted to start producing a lot more content for the Nervous community. I see that there's a lot of opportunity for that. Beyond what I see in the groups, there's just a lack of content, and whatever content does exist is needs to be improved. So I want to hear what you are thinking in terms of content development, and I also want to share what my vision is for content production in the future. I can do that now or in a couple minutes.
Yeah, no, amazing. That's really great to hear. It's really great to hear that we've got someone who has that expertise already. Um, just before I get into a spiel, please forgive the trains that are going to be passing in the background. And hopefully it's not too windy because I'm outside in the garden. Is my voice coming through okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you sound great. I don't know if you're interested in coming on as a speaker on Nervous Nation, our podcast, but you have the perfect podcast voice. I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you, thank you. That's very kind. That's very kind. That may be something to look at in the future. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's work something out. So let me start. In fact, let me let Gabriel go first because I've kind of given a lot in terms of my background. I will come back to that because explaining who and what Chapter One are and why they exist relates back to my timeline as well. But it would be great to have Gabriel's vision on what he feels around the development of content is, and then we could work from there. So
Right
I'll
now,
hand for.
yeah, sorry. So right now, are you currently producing content under your brand, or is that just a future? Is that a plan for the future?
So we have produced, or the guys have produced content for a blockchain-based fund, a company called KR1. I actually have the video here. That was going to be part of the presentation where I give you a case study of stuff that's already been done in the blockchain space. So I won't focus too much on that because that was more of a branding effort. KR1 are one of the first token funds in this space. They fancy themselves, and they're a bunch of really great guys that are aspiring to be the kind of like the Goldman Sachs of this space. I met them when I was networking in the space, and I worked and I did some technical readings of white papers that were being presented to them. They would get a bunch of white papers with all of this technical jargon and magic maths and basically projects asking for funding. And I would go over them, I would read over them, tell them what was BS and what was actually viable. And
Okay, so
they basically wanted to showcase the projects that they were invested in. So they're in heavily into Ethereum. They're into their funding, like Polychain, basically. They are funding a host of other projects like Elastos and a couple of other projects that are built on Ethereum. And they wanted to have a YouTube channel, and they wanted an opening bumper, an animated logo for their opening title on each of their videos. And I was like, well, dude, I can get that done for you. Like, I've got these guys and they'll be able to do that for you. They're like my close friends. And this is what they presented. If I could just show it to you here. I'm going to share my screen.
So sorry, just to clarify, so do you work with them? Are you
Yes.
friends with them? I didn't understand.
Yes, so I am friends with them and I work with them. We've gotten together to work as a collective, where I am the kind of conduit and the glue to this space, and they have the technical expertise from their work in Hollywood and working on movies and things like that. So they don't really know anyone in the blockchain space. They don't have any kind of leads into the blockchain space. I've been going to 3 meetups a week for like the last 4 years and have met a lot of people. So I work as that conduit between them, what they have to offer in terms of storytelling expertise and high level kind of production skills. And I'm like, dude, I know Matt from Nervos. Like, let me talk to him. Maybe like we could work on something. That's kind of the way the relationship works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And maybe when you show us what they produce, I'll have a better idea. But generally, what type of content do they produce? Like for what medium? You said they have a YouTube channel, but besides for that?
Yeah, so going back, they Chapter One primarily works, they're based in LA. They work on film titles, commercials, and opening sequences for a host of different people in Hollywood. So what I'll do is I'll start with the show reel, and then you'll understand who they've worked for. What I am trying to kind of get across is the case study of what they've done in the blockchain space. So KR1 have the YouTube channel for the projects that they're invested in. and chapter 1 were the people who created their opening title bumper. Let me open with that. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see this?
I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was just an animated logo that they did for KR1 as part of their branding effort for their YouTube channel. Okay. Was everyone able to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw. So what else? What other content do they produce aside from animated titles like
Okay. So now I'm going to show you the I'm going to show you the
And just to be clear, do they produce the content on the KR1 YouTube site, or do they?
Oh, it was just that as like a favor to me, almost, really. I was like, dude, if you guys want to get into this space and get to know people and get to work with projects, like, do me this solid. It was still paid for. It was actually paid for in Bitcoin, but it wasn't their usual kind of rate. It wasn't the same thing that they would charge Apple or the NFL. They were like, look, we'll do this as a way to introduce ourselves into this space, and kind of get some dirt under our fingernails with people in this space. This is a show reel that really showcases a lot of the different projects they've worked on. I'll also share the deck with you guys as well. So let me share my screen again.
How much did that logo cost?
So again, that was they didn't actually earn anything on it. It was more of just a solid for me, and it was at the time half a Bitcoin. So that worked out to around $5,000, $6,000.
Okay.
Which was mostly around like getting it done. Can you see my screen? Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
So this is a comprehensive show reel of what they do. So Simon,
Can you explain a little bit what we're looking at here?
so this is a show reel of the different projects that they've worked on. It includes the Destiny movie, the Destiny video game. So they did the actual cinematics for the Destiny video game.
Got it. That was the 3D animation. So they did these. They
Yes.
created the animation of these.
Yes, and not only that, the actual narrative around it as well.
Got it. Yeah, so I guess what my initial concern is that if we are, our initial feedback when we spoke to one agency that
Yes.
quoted us for producing, I think it was Matt. Do you remember what the initial quote was? I think it was like 15. What's that?
60,000, right? For,
Yeah,
I think, what, four or five videos, something like
Yeah,
that.
so it's 15 minutes of content for $60,000.
Yes.
So that's let's
Yes. Now here's the interesting thing. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that, and this is the biggest kind of stumbling point or point of intimidation when I always showcase this stuff. Let's not even worry about money.
Well, I just want to make sure that we manage expectations.
Of course, please. And I'm gonna personally try and walk you through an understanding of what it is. Now, I know you're seeing this, and I know that it kind of might be like, whoa, like really? But I'll explain how it's not necessarily the fact that they've done stuff like this that they would require the same level of budget. The best way to describe it is that they work very elastically to the resources that are available. And the focus is always on the concept and what they want to convey. And they can do that with a range of budgets, a range of different requirements as well. So please just take this in for the storytelling capability that's available. Please take this as what's available to the community.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, for example, a lot of the time when things break down, it usually comes down to people being like, "Oh, dude, this Hollywood stuff, we can't afford that. Like, that's way too far out of our range."
Well, I think there's two issues. One is whether we can afford it or not afford it, and then the other issue is that the style that it, is what we want to produce something that comes across as like high budget and
I understand.
and Hollywood, or is it that more like something that looks like another. What would be the exact opposite of this is if we just
Okay.
had 10 investors send us their TikTok videos that they made, and then we put that together in
understand.
iMovie on an old MacBook Air, and then we published that, and it was a total budget of a couple, a 6-pack of beer and a pizza.
Right. Now, let's try and take the emphasis away from even the stylized way it looks and money. The focus has to be on the storytelling and on the audience that we're trying to hit. The focus for them is to learn about the space and to take on a new challenge. Now, I've known these guys for years. I've known one of them since I was 16. Very good friends, and I introduced them to this space. I introduced them to the concept of smart contracts and blockchain at around 2017. And they were blown away by the potential of this to change society. They were blown away by not just the potential of what it could be, but how it could impact. And they wanted to be involved in that. They saw this as a big step forward. So this is what they do, bread and butter. They do all the stuff for the NFL and Jameson and big budget stuff like that. But what they want to do is find a new frontier where they're challenged creatively and want to learn. And that's been the agenda, and that's been the ethos throughout. That's why we try and steer away from budgets and everything like that when we talk about what's on offer, because it's more than just that. It's about people who actually care about the space and want to learn about the space and want to be creatively challenged to tell the stories in this space. Because when they looked around, right, when we discussed this and we were having this conversation a few years back, we were like, dude, these guys are about to change the world with a lot of this stuff, right? But they can't get the story across. They can't tell the actual emotive story that would make people compelled to be involved in this. So how are you going to change the world when you can't tell your story properly? And I was like, dude, I know, but there's a lot of developers who lead this, and it's very much focused on tech and stuff like that. Like, and they were like, yeah, that's all good, but like, you need to get this across emotively. And we were like, well, that's what we do. That's what we do on a daily basis, day to day. So if we can bring that expertise into this space, more importantly than anything else, we can really get this to punch through. Right? That's the underlying concept of ethos.
In concrete terms, what do you have as, what vision do you have? What type of content would you produce with these guys that would be impactful? Like,
So when we're talking about our intent is to work with the community, work as part of the community to produce the videos that tell the story of Nervos. Everything that was articulated in the document, the Google Docs document, where it states verbatim, you'd want to create a series of videos to help people cut through the noise and also to introduce the vision of Nervos. Chapter 1 want to do that. They want to be the go-to. We want to build a relationship with the community, as part of the community, where these expertise are brought in. And whenever there's a need for this, Chapter 1 are in the mix. Because we already have the knowledge, we have someone who's able to translate a lot of the technical aspects and make it emotive. And we want to be like the vendor for Nervos to tell their story. Does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense. But again, dollars to donuts. What do you want to do? Let's say we want to start tomorrow. What are you going to produce? What are you going to make?
So
go
we can start. We can
Instagram?
start with.
What is it?
If I can, again, I'm going to share my screen again. We can start with a capabilities or design treatments that you would want to show. This is what was produced for KR1. So we would like to start with design treatments. This is the sort of expertise that's offered, where we can develop some options for some of the videos, develop some of the concepts for some of the videos, for what you would want to see.
Oh, okay. So right now you don't really have any specific stories that you'd want to tell about Nervos.
Well, we want to tell the stories that you guys want to tell. We want to tell the stories about, from my understanding from being in a Telegram group, is that you guys, we all want to tell the compelling proposition of Nervos as a protocol. Is that right? We want to cut through the noise and help people understand what Nervos is, both on the technical level and also as an emotive proposition for people. Am I on the right track with that?
Sure.
So if the plan is to have a series of videos, Chapter 1 would like to produce them, telling that story, telling the Nervos story, telling the Nervos proposition. We don't have anything, there's nothing, conceptually down, because we haven't had that conversation. And I think that was meant to be kind of driven from the community as well. But again, the ideation and all those things can definitely be done by Chapter 1.
Oh, okay. No problem. I was just, I was under the impression that you were part of the community, so you might have
Yes.
some ideas that might, might need telling, that some aspects.
Okay. Sorry. So in that regard, the important thing, and I had a conversation with someone else from another blockchain community, and he gave me some really good insight regarding the disparity in audiences. So a lot of projects don't know the audience they're talking to, or they mistake the audience they're talking to. They think they're talking to the wider world, or the late majority, or the early majority, but really they're talking to developers. So for me personally, the story that I would like to be told is to the right audience right now, which I feel is like developers. So we want to present and we want to create a call to action for developers. We want to create content and we want to produce visuals that act as a big sounding horn for developers to come and not just take Nervos seriously, but build. take a look at this as a proposition. So our focus would be on, look, this thing exists. This fertile ground exists. We've laid this out and it's ready for you to build on. It's ready for you to create on. It's ready for you to develop all of these new interesting things. And a direct case study would be, and I've spoken with Matt about this, would be, imagine a Nervos DevCon, similar to what Ethereum had, right? You would want an opening video sequence that really showcases everything that I've tried to kind of state about. Look, you guys have all come here to find out about what this thing is. Here are some visuals that give you that in an emotive way. Developers still need to be engaged emotively to be motivated to build, to spend the effort, to spend the time to build on top of something. So having some video content for a DevCon, for example, would be a great opportunity to kind of showcase what we can do. Did that hit the mark a bit more?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Please give me feedback if I'm not being clear, like just so that I can kind of clear up any miscommunications or anything.
No, I got it. I think that answers my question.
Okay.
I think it might be helpful if we think more in kind of the short term. I think once the work starts to come together, I think that the fit for more aspirational stuff should become clear. But what I'm thinking about is kind of like all of the different ideas and concepts and kind of, long discussions that we had on that Telegram group. Those, like, not all of that is going to fit in one video. And, like we do need some help with, making that, cohesive. Like, I think we have a lot of information in there. And I think part of the difficulty in crypto now is that, the information is kind of thrown out there, but it's really not tight, to really be consumed by a larger audience. And I see some real value here to kind of, create a filter that, all of this, generative work that comes out of the community can kind of like come through to, get a message across that actually resonates with people, while we bring in all of the detail to kind of, I guess in the way things are arranged or what's cut out or put in to really create, comprehension in people.
Yeah. No, I totally
And
get it.
Matt, how do you see that process like coming about? Like how do you think that actually looks like on a day-to-day? Like what do people do, or what are we editing? What are we producing in order to do that?
So I think we've already done kind of the bulk of the first stage in this process in terms of having the concepts and having discussions about them. Like we've generated a lot of information about what we're thinking about. So from here, I see kind of, one step of, I guess the people who are more deep in the weeds with all that information, kind of compiling it in a way that it can be presented to the chapter 1 group, who can then kind of look at, what are these guys trying to get across? Like, what is kind of the gist of what we're talking about here? And start to formulate how that would actually translate into, a video format. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And even being part of that process, even being part of that conversation as it's happening, is also going to be very important. Because again, there's a vested interest from chapter 1 in this, because they already have the understanding of what, Nervos and blockchain, how this can really impact is already, there. So having them have input as things grow and things formulate will also be very important. But yeah, I totally agree with what you said, man.
Gabriel, Jonathan, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely a long process, and I don't think it's going to be necessarily possible like to present it at once to a production company. I think it definitely has to be something that's ongoing. I mean, like I don't think we're gonna know necessarily let's work a month and then we can put together this clean package. Oh, we want this shot, this shot, this shot. I think it's something that needs to be, over time.
Yeah, I think it's good that these guys are, really interested in the tech, and Ernest knows, CKB pretty well. So I see kind of a good fit there. I mean, we've got to kind of work through the process and see how everybody evolves, but I see potential there.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think that look, I think it's worth um, I think it's worth going over the material and the portfolio more in depth. I think it's also worth Ernest, if you're not part of you're active in the Telegram chat for the video. Definitely take a look there at some of the history.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely in there. I've been in there
Great.
for about a month,
Oh,
maybe
awesome.
a month and a half. Yeah, so I've been seeing things. I've been keeping up with things, which is part of the reason why I also really wanted to get across that there is already efficiencies that can be made with this. A lot of what can be optimized here is that we can cut through a lot of the jargon of having to go to a production company and get them to even understand what blockchain is, first and foremost. Because a lot of that is going to take up a lot of time in getting them up to speed, getting them to understand what this is and why we care so much about it, for them to care and then start to build a vision themselves.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's already a lot of that work already done. And there's already a lot of that work that I can help with, being in both sides, where I translate a lot of the technical aspects to them. NC Max and the cell model and everything. I can already do that and translate that to them. Whereas if you go to a completely new production company, they're going to have to get all of that overhead. They're going to come with all of that overhead to have to learn and try and understand what that even means before they can translate that into some kind of meaningful concept and message.
I hear that. So I would say the probably the best way to move forward is to I'd love for the community to be able to give feedback on the portfolio and to see if it seems like the style and the quality is aligned with what the community is interested in, and then assuming that there's positive feedback there, I think there's an opportunity to set up. To set up another call.
Yes, yeah, that would be great. It would be great for you guys to meet them. So once we get some feedback from the community, it would be great to get you guys to meet them so that you can actually hear from them, their understanding, and then you can also get more of a visceral feel for what they're about.
All right, cool. So I think that's everything for now. That's kind of what I wanted to get out of this call. I'm going to post this probably to YouTube, just so in that way some of the visuals that we had will be included,
Yes.
and then I'll post the link, and we'll get. And then if you could just post just directly yourself um, into the Telegram chat. Um, More content, stuff so
Yes.
that people can get more familiar with the studio. So
Yes.
then we'll get feedback, and we'll probably put together a couple polls. If you have any ideas for
Yes.
polls, you're welcome to make polls yourself. I don't, even though I think I'm one of the admins of the chat, it's really community driven. I see it as a
Yes.
flat hierarchy with no real leader.
No worries. There are actually two other videos that I have, which I didn't show now, um, which focus more on the storytelling aspect of things, and how they were able to really share an emotive cause. And I'll post those up in the group as well. One of them was for the Californian Farmers Association, where they were talking about the drought in California and how almond growers and things like that are struggling with the drought and things like that. And all of that was shot live and everything. So it's not all kind of like fancy CG and all the rest of it. But again,
Sounds great.
their primary focus is telling emotive stories.
Awesome. Yeah, very excited to see how this progresses.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, yeah, no, this was really good. This was really good. Apologies if I overwhelmed you with some stuff.
No, it's all good.
All right.
Alrighty. So we'll speak soon.
Cool.
Well, thank
Absolutely.
you very much. Ernest.
No, it was really great meeting you guys. Really great meeting you all. It's great to kind of put some real names and faces to things now in the group. So yeah, please let's take another inch forward. Let's step forward, take another little step forward, and see where things go.
Awesome. All right. All the best.
No worries. Take care.
Everybody, have a good day.
Bye.